Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another sterling episode of Wrestling with Egos this week. However you are joining us, whether it's on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify, Google, Apple, Anchor, or Intergalactic Radio, who's been down since day one, we thank you for joining us. Welcome to my boys, Isaac, the Big Mang, and Patrick, the Reverend of the Rant. Gentlemen, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Now, I totally lost my train of thought.
Oh, brother. Well, we're off to a banger beginning.
That is the kind of day I am having. Hashtag lack of sleep. So I'm gonna make for a very interesting show tonight. If you guys thought that last week I was on my game, this week I'm gonna probably be the exact opposite. Brian, how are you?
Isaac, what's the good word, my brother?
The good word is that we are all here. We are all healthy. We are all happy. It's been a good week. Let's make it happen.
I'm not happy.
Amen to that. Apparently.
Okay,
No.
we can't always be good and happy. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We'll leave him. We'll go.
I wasn't able to finish. I'm not happy. To quote the brilliant role played by Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday, Wyatt, I am rolling.
Nice.
Not only am I happy, but damn, I'm gorgeous. But
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there.
You
Apparently,
hope to contain me, baby.
my two partners in crime are intent on calling me out when I say that I need to educate myself on more things WCW, because this past week the assignment was to take a deep dive and avoid the swimmer's ear if we can on Superbrawl 3, which was a WCW pay-per-view that took place several months after our previous deep dive, Clash of Champions, which, let's face it, had some questionable booking decisions. No, not Clash of Champions, Starrcade. I'm very sorry. I got to get it right.
But first off, questionable is being very, very kind.
This is what we do. I am the intellectual savior of the wrestling masses, and I'm not going to say a disparaging word if I can help it.
I do want to say this. Thank you guys so much for the massive feedback we got off of last week's Starrcade 92 episode. Yes, to answer your questions, we had as much fun doing it as you think we did.
And a friendly reminder to you that you can interact with the show. Get out there on the Twitter sphere, wrestling or at WrestlingXEgos. You can reach us all individually on Twitter. Our handles are appearing across the screen as we speak right now. But, gentlemen, I thought this was instructive to see, okay, say what you will about Starrcade. Okay, where do you go from there? Because it's one thing to be in the moment. Where do you go from there? Are we going to the moon, to borrow a phraseology from Cameron Grimes, or are we kind of standing pat? So we're going to go match by match here. I'm going to start it off by giving kudos to them. Max Payne delivered a pretty nice rendition of the national anthem.
It was very, very good.
Number one thing I did not know about the man was that he could play the guitar. I had no idea. Didn't know him from a hole in the wall. Starts off with that. I'm like, this is actually pretty good. And before you get in there, Patrick, I am going to call out Asheville, North Carolina for saying, where is your patriotism? Because during that national anthem, they're showing the crowd, one guy had his hand over his heart. One. Everybody else is like, drinking their soda and thumbs down and stuff like that and holding their signs. I got a problem with that.
Two things. One, concerning Max Payne. I don't know if you were watching WWF in the mid-90s, but he was also Man Mountain Rock.
Did not know that.
Okay, yeah, his entrance was basically the lights went out, the spotlight would come on, and he's in the center of the ring playing his music. It was kind of cool. Second off, I understand the patriotism, but at the same time, with the whole hand over your heart thing, I'm not a hand over my heart guy. I am a kind of arms behind my back, kind of standing at attention / at ease. But
well, that's fine. But these people weren't doing that either.
The only time I am a anything over heart guy is if I have a hat on and then the hat comes off and, I'm essentially a baseball player. I do it that way, but, that's a me thing. That's a me thing. Definitely not a lack of patriotism. My oldest stepson just finished 2 tours with the Marine Corps and he's home. So hell yeah. But yeah, I'm completely. I want to call Asheville, North Carolina out on something else. What a dead freaking crowd!
Unfortunately, that's another common thread that's running through these pay-per-views. I mean, I'm just used to watching crowds that are lit.
Well,
NXT crowds,
right?
Attitude Era WWF crowds.
One thing you're only looking at 6,500 people.
Yes, I did notice that too when I was looking up.
Big man,
go ahead, get in there.
Okay, a couple things. One, you said, where do we go from here after Starrcade? We take a step up because look, it was at the bottom of the barrel for Starrcade. Let's just start there.
Go down.
You can't go down any further than that. Let's start off from there. So we can take a step up. Thank God they did something. Yes, that crowd was dead. Not every city is gonna be, like a Chicago or like Philly when ECW is there. We all have to know that. Yes, hopefully, the next one that we watch together, we can sit here and say, the crowd was hot, great wrestling matches to follow and go from there. But we have to see how it goes. Which one you guys want us to watch next? Please tell us something. I want to watch something. I want to watch something interesting. Throw something obscure at us if you want. Patrick, go ahead.
I got an idea for the show. I'll spring it on you at the end.
Oh my God, I'm scared now.
No, you should not be scared. This is gonna be a good one. I promise.
Okay, I got you.
He's gonna make us watch Smoky Mountain Wrestling from start to finish.
No. Hell no.
Moving right along. Well, I think both of you had to be happy though.
Well, time. I have made people on this show watch some god-awful stuff. I have made you guys watch the King of the Road match. I have made you guys watch the Kennel from Hell match. At least those had some comedic redeeming qualities in how bad it was. Smoky Mountain Wrestling doesn't even have that. There is nothing you can make fun of in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. It just sucked ass. That's all there is to it. So let's go ahead and get into this. One really interesting note. Actually, no, I forgot, Brian. That was something you wanted to bring up in terms of a potential reason for the upgrade that we got for this week. Why don't you go ahead and get that, because that is kind of
it helps inform everything we're watching, I think.
Yeah, and it's also definitely a juxtaposition of one of the main criticisms from Starrcade 92.
I have 2 more expository things to bring up, kind of setting the scene. You guys had to love the treatment of Jesse the Body in this one, because he was back to just bald head, snake skin, calling the action and being an analyst. No more Malcolm X cap with a Fu Manchu and a one earring and what are you trying to do here? And
but it was him and Tony Schiavone barking at each other like a couple of damn chihuahuas all night long.
This is true.
And honestly and truly, at this point, I'm over here thinking maybe Malcolm X had Jesse Ventura alongside Jim Ross wasn't necessarily a bad thing.
And I got a big dose of Johnny B. Bad at the beginning.
Oh my God.
The confetti cannon and the horrible rhymes, and that's all I desire at this point. I've had enough of Johnny B. Bad to last me a lifetime. It's just so horrible.
Real quick, as I totally forgot about how bad the music entrances were for all of these guys. I'm sorry. Look, I'm listening to this crap like, oh my God, somebody kill me.
Lyrically, though, some of the music from WCW in that era was just brutal. And Johnny B. Bad's is one of like the worst of them all. There's another one later in the pay-per-view I'll point out when we get there, because I'll go ahead and tell you right now, it's terrible, and it makes its debut in this pay-per-view.
And I'll intro the first match because that's kind of where I'm going to go with this. The first match of the night is the Hollywood Blondes versus Eric Watts and Marcus Bagwell. I'll say one note quickly about Eric Watts. One of the things that we bemoaned about Starrcade, I almost did it again, was the fact that Eric Watts was placed in such a high profile position, and he's as green as the grass outside on my lawn. You know, and you both explained to me, well, the reason for that, good sir, is because of who was in charge and who his papa was. In the pre-show meeting, the Reverend of the Rant over there informed me that by this point, Bill Watts was no longer employed by WCW. He was out, and this is the first show that one Mr. Eric Bischoff was in charge of. And I have to say that's probably the reason why there is a step up in quality now, because number one, you don't have one guy wrestling 4 times in a pay-per-view. He's actually going to use his roster.
You don't have 5 guys wrestling 3 times, including big number 76, Oklahoma's own Dr. Death Steve Williams.
Yes, we had to get it in.
Damn Skippy, we did. By the way, that's for.
I have a question about Marcus Bagwell, really quick.
That is for
because I know what he became, and I wonder if at the very beginning they were grooming him to be something different than what he actually became. Because this is not Buff's got the stuff Bagwell that we see in this match.
Buff was intended to be white meat babyface.
Okay.
And he was still white, because keep in mind, we've got, Bagwell and Eric Watts right now. We're going to end up getting Bagwell and Scorpio. Then we're going to get Bagwell and the Patriot to form Stars and Stripes. Then we're going to get Bagwell and Scotty Riggs for the American Males. And then we finally get Buff back. Brian.
Yeah.
Real quick, since you wouldn't let me...
You brought up crappy entrance music before. There's a crappy entrance music.
Since you wouldn't let me get it in, I'm getting it in now. The whole Dr. Death Steve Williams thing was for hashtag friend of show PJ, who told me at work that I had to get that in one more time. So, you're welcome.
I'm sorry. I was going off on a coherent thought and not, rehashing past... I thought we were onward and upward. I thought we were trying to improve the quality of the pay-per-views that we're watching here, not, just because he, played right tackle for Oklahoma, then he deserves a featured spot on our show.
No, that's the Bill Watts administration. But anyway, enough of the sidebar and the shenaniganery. Let's go ahead and get into this, Brian. You did bring up, you did at least start to allude to the Hollywood Blondes versus Eric Watts and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. I gotta be honest, 3/4 of this match was really good. Yes. Bagwell looked really good. Even though still fairly green, he looked really good in this match. Austin and Pillman made Eric Watts look serviceable. That's about
it. They did everything that Jushin Thunder Liger couldn't do 3 months ago.
Exactly. And here is, for me, a future indictment of just how up until the NWO, WCW just straight up didn't get it. The Hollywood Blondes only last about 8 months.
Which is horrible.
Exactly. That team was amazing. But yeah, looked so good in that match. And they hadn't been teaming long, but the fact that you get so much chemistry and fluidity in what they're doing, and even though they're getting booed, Austin's name's getting chanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're one of those heel teams that, try as they might, they're getting over. Not just like, oh, we hate you, getting over, like, oh no, oh shit, you're good. We like you. And truth be told, I honestly think that if the Blondes would have continued their run, they WCW wouldn't have had a choice to do a face turn.
I can see that. And you look at the fact that this was one of the longest matches of the night, but it did not feel like one of the longest matches of the night. This felt like, heels calling the shots, because, heels usually do that in a tag team match. But it's like you said, they allowed Eric Watts to look like he knew what he was doing. They did, he didn't have to carry the match for long stretches of time.
Thank God.
And that's why I brought up the question about Marcus Bagwell, because the buff Bagwell I remember did not do all of the things he was doing here. And, he was more just out there as a cartoon character during his high point.
Yeah.
So
90s Bagwell took this seriously, like super seriously. But yeah, I liked this match a whole lot, and I had forgotten about this match until we looked at the Superbrawl card last Friday night when we recorded the Starrcade show. I forgot about this match, and as I was watching, I was like, man, I forgot how good the Blondes were. And this is the Hollywood Blondes that don't even have matching gear yet. Pillman is still in the tiger stripes. And I'm like, wow, this is a good match to set the tone for the pay-per-view with the Blondes getting the win. I'm like, wow. That's a good startup match, and now let's get something a little bit, a little bit downward trend. Nope, we get to Cold Scorpio and Chris Benoit.
Thank you. That's all I can say.
Holy crap balls. First off, Meltzer gave the Blondes and Bagwell and Watts 3 stars. He gives Scorpio and Benoit 3 3/4.
Should have got 4.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think at least my opinion on this, we look at Benoit, and even though we saw what we got in that match, that Chris Benoit that we saw in 1993 is not the same Chris Benoit that won the title at WrestleMania 22. It is a completely different animal. This Chris Benoit is more Dynamite Kid than he is anything else right now.
The comment I wrote down about this match, because I watched it and I can't watch anything about Benoit now without having it being, seen through the lens of everything that went on at the end.
Right.
In a vacuum, he's one of the best technical wrestlers ever. I mean, you're not going to find many that do it better. And in this match, he's, got a fresher set of legs. It's before all of the hits to the head, and neck came into play, the CTE or whatever you want to call it. And he isn't relying on just those headbutts and stuff like that. He's got a mix of power moves, but he's also got speed. And,
and suplexing the unholy hell out of Too Cold Scorpio.
Yeah.
I mean, this match was fast-paced. It did not slow down. And both guys got all their shit in. Scorpio did his thing. Benoit had 150,000 suplexes of all varieties, not just German. It was a brilliant, brilliant match. The one thing I love, and you never see this in wrestling in terms of timing, the finish came at 14:59 or whatever. Well, hang on. No, it was 20-minute time limit at 19:59. You get Scorpio gets the roll up 1, 2, 3, and then there's a time.
Yeah.
The fact that they did that and it hit on every one of those marks, I'm like, my God, you know, 9 times out of 10, you botch that up somehow.
Right. And I think Too Cold Scorpio, the more I think about it, anytime you get asked the question, who's the best wrestler never to win a major championship, you should talk about Too Cold Scorpio on that list.
And by major, we're not just talking like world championship. We're talking like, an intercontinental or a U.S. Yeah.
Because I don't even think when they had him in ECW, they gave him a run with much of anything. He was just there to wrestle other people.
TV title.
Okay. The more I think about it, it's kind of criminal that he was never trusted with.
Maybe even tag title. He might have won the tag titles with Ron Simmons.
Possibly.
Too Cold and Ron Simmons tag teamed in ECW for a while.
But usually when I watch a Scorpio match, it does not suck.
No.
And if it does, it's not his fault.
Let's sidebar on this for just a second, because we don't get very many opportunities to talk about Too Cold Scorpio. This guy was a high flyer that was too damn big to be doing any of the stuff that he was doing, and he did it beautifully.
Yeah, effortless.
Absolutely.
Okay, look, you see guys nowadays that are doing a 450 splash. You're looking at guys like Mustafa Ali, Rollins, guys that are 205, 215. Scorpio was 230. Maybe even heavier than that. 100% sure. Let me pull it up. Bill Weight. 243.
And he never, the moment never looked like it was too big for him either.
No.
I mean, the smoothness that he had in all of his moves. You have some wrestlers like where you can say, okay, everything they do is just crisp. Everything just pops. With Too Cold Scorpio, it looked easy. He never snapped anything off.
How about this? I know the body type's not the same, but if Bruce Lee were a wrestler.
No, Bruce Lee popped shit off. Bruce Lee had snap in his technique.
Okay.
Yeah, he did.
Too Cold Scorpio is more like I'm trying to think like musically. Like a Barry White can't get enough of your love. There's nothing like massive and grandiose about it, but it's just like, or like Al Green, Let's Stay Together. Just kind of that.
Pharrell.
Just that nice flow, and everything just sounds effortless, and it just it gels together. Everything seems right about it, but there's nothing that just kind of reaches out and just grabs you by the throat and says, okay, this is why you like it. But you look at it and you're like, okay, that 450 splash, that's sick. I know you probably never saw anything of his ECW stuff. Isaac, you might have. But he had a different finish in ECW, a move called the tumbleweed. It was a back-flipping leg drop.
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh, the tumbleweed was freaking sick.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, the tumbleweed was sick. And that looked effortless. He would hit a moonsault that, and it was not one of those like Great Muta, Lita kind of moonsaults where it's all about the distance. It was all about the loft and the hang time and a Kurt Angle, Charlotte kind of moonsault,
right.
where
It's
that time when that slow float over, which for me, that's a freaking moonsault. I know Muta invented that shit, but yeah, give me just that slow layover. But man, Scorpio, I agree with you. Scorpio is on that list of best guys to never win even a mid-major.
And I always forget about him, and I feel terrible about that. But
yeah,
I think we all sort of forget about him, but he's someone that we all need to sit here and remember that he was really, really damn good.
Oh, and something else. We were talking earlier at the beginning of the show about how some of the music from WCW just sucked ass. Scorpios did not.
no, it did not.
Oh, yeah, that was good. That was nice.
Straight up like early 90s rap. And looking back on it, you're like, okay, there's a lot of cheesiness in there. But dude, for early 90s rap, it still kicked ass. I mean, it had something to it. As a kid, I liked it.
Loved it.
Yeah. And again, 243 pounds. Nobody that damn big should be doing crap like that. Keep this in mind. As far as a weight perspective is concerned, he's just a few pounds lighter than John Cena. Cena is billed at 251.
That puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
A lot in perspective, but just also different body type, different athletics.
Oh, I know. I mean, well, no, they're roughly about the same height, because I think Scorpio was like 5'11", 6 foot. Cena's only like 6'1", 6'2". Cena's a massively tall guy. He's just, got shoulders the size of a Mack truck. But yeah, we talked last week about how certain matches and certain people, oh my God, what could have been, what should have been. Both of these guys in this match, Benoit, Scorpio. What could have been, what should have been. Both of them. You could have done so much more with Scorpio instead of letting him go to WWF and be Flash Funk. And Benoit, even in the WCW days, my God, what a missed opportunity. Multiple missed opportunities with Chris Benoit in WCW. I mean, So we go from that amazing, let's see, Meltzer said 3.75 stars to 1/4 star. Davey Boy Smith defeated Wild Bill Irwin.
Even that's being generous.
Oh God. Okay, confession. I might draw some heat on this. If we're talking best guys to never win a major or a mid-major, I would put Davey Boy Smith on a list of guys who got way too much and didn't deserve squat. I've never been a fan of the Bulldog. Every great match, in my opinion, that Davey Boy Smith had, he was carried by somebody infinitely better than him. The two matches that always stick out in my mind was Davey and Shawn, both won from whatever pay-per-view that was when Shawn was champ, and they were doing that whole angle where Shawn had been harassing Davey Boy Smith's wife, Brett's sister, that whole thing. And then the Shawn Davey Boy match from one of the Saturday night main events where Shawn beat Davey Boy for the Intercontinental title. You know, those two matches as far as Bulldog and Shawn, and then Bulldog and Brett from SummerSlam
92
in Wembley
Stadium.
That's not as hot of a take. I mean, or that's not as much of a controversial take as you think it might be. I
expected it to be honest, because Bulldog is looked at. I honestly think Davey Boy Smith's career is looked at with rose-colored glasses. I think he gets a lot of love because of, one, how his career ended and everything else, and also the fact that he was a popular wrestler, and he has his very deep ties to the Hart family.
Yeah, them and the Killer Bees were my two favorite tag teams when I was watching in the 80s. I loved watching those two teams. But another example of how bad it was when he was sniffing around the championship in 99. God awful. I mean, he's wrestling in jeans and a belt and combat boots.
Although his music kicked ass. His music was badass.
It did, and then, I love the thing with The Rock giving him a rock bottom on a plate of dog poop. Rock bottom on the dog poop.
The shoes.
Yes. But I think you're right on that, Patrick. I mean, Bulldog by association, by proxy, gets a lot of love.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he necessarily should, because if you're looking at him by himself, you've got to bring something to the table. You can't have Brett calling every shot through that match.
No.
So this was a forgettable match in my mind. I mean,
oh God, yeah. Wild Bill Irwin was enhancement. Wild Bill Irwin was enhancement talent for world-class championship wrestling. If that doesn't tell you anything that you need to know, I don't know what does. He was enhancement talent for the Von Erichs.
Moving on.
Two guys that would have been great to use 3 months ago.
Yeah. Davey Boy had just signed.
No, I'm talking about the next match.
Oh, yeah. Well, they did use one of them in Battle Bowl, or in the Lethal Lottery.
They did use Cactus, but yes, we saw Paul Orndorf in the back, and they didn't use it.
First off, it's Falls Count Anywhere. And, okay, before we get into the match itself, underrated as hell, Gary Michael Capetta as the ring announcer. I always thought Capetta was fun.
I've heard enough of him now that rasp, the higher pitched rasp.
You know who he reminds me of? Except he reminds me of and I don't mean this like in a sleazy way. I mean like, grittier, dirtier, a dirtier Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Okay, I can see that.
Right, Jimmy Lennon Jr.'s boxing ring announcer, the guy that goes, "It's showtime."
Okay. I saw the confused expression on my face.
That's why I felt like I needed the explanation. But Isaac, are you with me on that? Where he's got that tone and timbre, but he's got a little bit of gravel in his voice. And it's like I said, it's a dirty Jimmy Lennon Jr.
I got you. I feel you on that. I feel you 100% on that.
And Gary Michael Capetta, to me, one of these days we might need to do just a show on great ring announcers. Maybe get Doc involved in that.
That would be good.
Also, potential great ring announcers that were never ring announcers.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, Road Dogg could have been.
Yeah. Bro, that's a different story for that. That is a show all unto itself because you got Road Dogg, you got Ken Anderson. You know, you can go on and on and on. You got Ricardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
If you do it, if you say it, I'm coming to whoop your ass tonight.
Or we could just talk about Cactus Jack and Paul Orndorff. I mean, there is a solution to that.
Yes, we
to start talking about the match before I say what is on the tip of my tongue.
All right, and we totally will. I love the way this match started because we cut to Bischoff. Bischoff is doing an interview with Paul Orndorff and that glorious ass voice. And all of a sudden, here comes Cactus Jack with a freaking snow shovel. What? They brawl through the little streamer curtain they've got, and then Gary Michael Capetta's ass is in the middle of the ring. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Falls Count Anywhere, and then he just GTFO.
You've done what you came here to do.
It is elbows and ass, man. He is gone. This match was so. Look, Falls Count Anywhere matches are hard to do and be entertaining because nobody wants to take those bumps on concrete. That's why you end up in concession stands and bathrooms and doing all kinds of crazy ish like that. And then you have Paul Orndorff and Cactus Jack. Primarily, you have Cactus Jack. I want to point out one thing from this match, and you boys better know where I'm going with on this. One spot that Jack does in this match that to this day I see it just go, how the hell did he do that? Did you notice when Orndorff whipped Jack into the guardrail and the guardrail and the guardrail's going up and then there's one going perpendicular to it. Jack flips, spins, and goes over both of them.
That
I look at that and I'm like, Jesus.
I stopped writing for 5 minutes after that. I'm like, what can I say about that?
I kept going back and forth and just rewinding, like, okay, go back 10 seconds, go back 10 seconds. Like, I mean, God rest his soul.
That's another idea for something for someday. The top 10 worst bumps Mick Foley ever took.
That wasn't a bad bump, though. That was just slick.
Yeah.
That was slick as a mofo. I mean, that wasn't even a bad bump. He went over that thing, did a little spin-a-rooney before Booker T was ever doing a spin-a-rooney, and then and then just landed on his ass. I mean, dude.
Couldn't have felt good though.
Nothing felt good. But just seeing that, I'm just like, man, that just defies physics.
Yeah.
But that match was fun. And I can't say that too much about Falls Count Anywhere matches because they're generally not. Because like I said earlier, nobody wants to take those bumps. The only other Falls Count Anywhere match I can really look at and go, okay, yeah, that was gangster, to use one of Isaac's phrases, was the Kevin Sullivan, Chris Benoit Falls Count Anywhere match where they end up in the women's room. They're fighting in the concourse and they end up in the women's bathroom in the middle of the damn arena.
Excuse me.
Dude, the cameraman that was following them got his ass better have gotten hazard pay that night because he was having to hoof it after them. But such a good match in this. I mean, it was plenty of weaponry, but no, obviously for early 90s Southern wrestling, plenty of weaponry, a lot of hard hitting. Cactus Jack being Cactus Jack. Smashing Orndorff upside the head with a shovel and getting the pin. I do not know. Looking back on Cactus Jack and seeing Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, Dude Love Mankind, and seeing the way he finished matches in WWE, I can honestly say, as someone that watched a crap ton of WCW, I do not remember this man's finish. I do not know what it was. And I can tell you, I know for a fact it was not the double arm DDT. And it sure as hell wasn't the mandible claw.
Wasn't this the time where he was just doing, like, he'd have you outside and he would do that running elbow off the apron and then drag you in and pin you?
I think that was it.
Because the formative years of his career, I seem to remember him doing that an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where he was.
Dude got distance on that shit too.
Yes, he did.
And that's a large man to be going that kind of distance, and he would clear it. But God, this match was this was not the best match of the night, but this match, and for the record, Meltzer gave this 4 stars. This wasn't the best match of the night, but this was definitely the most fun. The one that followed it might rival it in terms of being the most fun, because God Almighty, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson versus Stan Lane and Tom Pritchard, the Heavenly Bodies.
Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Tom Pritchard. I'm sorry. First off, I want to say this. I forgot how damn good Dr. Tom Pritchard was.
Amazing is a better term.
Butter. Butter.
A big stick.
He was one of the trainers for my dude over my shoulder.
Oh, I know. And that is a guy who is low-key instrumental in the success of so many people in wrestling. His brother gets the shit into the deal because he's one of Vince's main guys. But you got to think, Dr. Tom Pritchard, amazing wrestler, amazing trainer. Bruce Pritchard, borderline genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much stuff that dude produced for WWE in terms of TV content was beyond me. He did all of the outside vignettes for The Undertaker. Every one of them. He admitted on a podcast once that he would only do them if it was a skin freezing windy night or raining. That's the only time he would do them. And I was like, that makes a crap load of sense.
You also forget he's also Brother Love.
Oh, I was about to get there.
I'm sorry. I jumped the gun.
No, that's fine. And Brother Love was low key awesome. There were things about Brother Love that was just funny as hell. Like the Brother Love show from WrestleMania 5 with Piper and Morton Downey Jr. That one was great because Bruce Pritchard had no problem making himself look like an ass. It was good stuff. But getting back to this match, I forgot how good Dr. Tom Pritchard was. And there's Stan Lane, who probably never had a bad tag team match in his entire life. Oh, yeah, by the way, there was Ricky and Robert.
So I have a question about them.
I have an answer.
Who are you referring to?
Rock and Roll Express.
Okay.
Oh, my. I love them.
What would you consider their heyday to be? Like when they were at the peak of their popularity, peak of their ring acumen?
Early to mid 80s. The rise of the Horsemen was when the Rock and Roll Express was at its hottest.
Okay.
So 82, 83, 84, 85.
That explains a lot because you guys are waxing rhapsodic about this match, and I I agree with you on Tom Pritchard. I forgot how much of a beating he could take and dish out punishment and things like that. But this match kind of fell flat for me. Because I'm like, I know this is not the Rock and Roll Express's peak, but I know how revered they are as a tag team. So I was sitting here trying to figure out, okay, when were they at their hottest? And if you're telling me it was a decade earlier, that makes a lot of sense now.
I will say this though, yeah, I mean their heyday was past them, but Rock and Roll Express in early '93 still better than 85% of the tag teams across the entire freaking globe.
Understood.
I would make the argument that in '93, the Rock and Roll Express, if they were in WCW, would have still been the best tag team in WCW at that point in time. Because nobody that was a good tag team from the WCW days was in WCW circa 1993. They were all in WWF.
Yeah, that's all right.
Blanchard wasn't wrestling anymore because he couldn't pass a drug test. Arn was on his way back to WCW. The Steiners were in WWF. LOD was going to WWF. Yeah.
Yeah. You also one more thing, which as we're talking about the Rock and Roll Express, they just said, okay, we're gonna stop teaming together like a month ago. And that's the longevity of this team. Ricky Morton's gonna be tag teaming with his son. Robert Gibson's teaming with his son. Ricky Morton's doing his own thing. They'll do signings, but that's totally different.
Both these dudes are my mom's age.
Still tag teaming, which is crazy.
I know, and they still they're a nostalgia act now, but up here, no. Psychology. They can write encyclopedias on that crap. But yeah, to fully answer your question, Rise of the Horsemen, probably the zenith of Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. But where that was their zenith, their drop off was a very slow process.
Okay. Extremely slow process because they didn't really drop off.
Dude, they when I don't know if you guys remember it, but when WWF during the Attitude Era, like the early stages of the Attitude Era, they started doing some cross promotion with the NWA. The Rock and Roll Express made appearances on Raw at that point, and we're talking, later '90s, '96.
I do remember that now that you mention it.
Yeah, and
I didn't name you any of the people, but I remember them showing up.
I remember them and Jeff Jarrett. That was it.
Okay.
They were the Smoky Mountain tag team champions at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right, because it was NWA and Smoky Mountain and WWF all doing that kind of cross promotion.
Look at Isaac bringing it all back home again. Thank you, Isaac.
Hey, I'm good for something, people. Hey, I got something here.
Dude, your royalty check is in the mail as we speak, sir. That was a good shout.
Isaac has stepped his game up in 2022.
He's outclassing me left and right, man. I don't know what to say about that.
Last 2 weeks, Homeboy has brought the heat.
I'm gonna do some more reps in the gym after we're done here. I mean, clanging and banging and clanging and banging.
Yeah, all right, paradise. But this match was good old fashioned Southern tag team wrestling on a much bigger stage. And I will say one final thing about this. The tag team scene in the South, especially in the heyday of Jim Crockett Promotions, about as good as it gets.
I agree.
Oh, in terms of like eras of tag team wrestling, I would say that, and probably that, AEW right now, and late 90s WWF or WWE. Because AEW right now, you have all of those tag teams. Late 90s, early 2000s WWE, Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian, the APA, God, there were a few others.
The Outlaws.
Oh yeah, oh my God, the Outlaws. Yeah. So I mean, those three eras of tag team wrestling, probably the three best. Yeah. And I've always been a sucker for good tag team wrestling. Isaac, you look like you got something marinating in your head.
I keep thinking of tag team wrestling, and like I said, I haven't seen that good. WWE hasn't really been bringing it lately. AEW has just stepped their game up, and I'm just happy to see some good. When I was watching the tag team match with the blondes, it's like, wow, I haven't seen old school heel stuff like that in a while, and it looked good. And
No.
Well, dare I say NXT, 2017, 2018, 2019, they were trying to bring it too.
Yes, they were. And while, my opinion, while it was insanely good, I would put that fourth.
I agree with you. I'm not saying it holds a candle to what
No.
The other time periods and promotions that you've mentioned.
Right. I mean, but you did have some amazing tag teams during that point. You had American Alpha. You had the Ascension. Oh my God, the Ascension in NXT. Jesus Christ. So good. But you had them. You had the Lucha Dragons. You had American Alpha. You had the Revival.
DIY.
Thank you. You had DIY. You had the Authors of Pain. And then you bring in the Undisputed Era.
Breezango.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, I was never really, I love Tyler Breeze. I was never really a big fan of Breezango.
Understood.
I thought their skits, I thought their vignettes were freaking hilarious. But in the ring, bad it. But all of that, as good as it was, I'd take any of the other three eras that I mentioned ahead of that era of NXT. Now, don't get me wrong. We talked, I have seriously mentioned this phrase at least 24 times in the last 2 weeks of this show. What could have been or what should have been. And in that era of NXT tag teams, there is one tag team that is just like, oh my God, what could have been? American Alpha.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal missed opportunity.
Well, they break him up. Jason Jordan breaks his neck. We're not going to talk about the fact that they did the whole gimmick where Jason Jordan was Kurt Angle's son. That was stupid. The only good thing that came out of that was me, Brian, and our buddy Braylon at a Monday Night Raw in Cleveland, right against the ramp. Jason Jordan sitting on top of the ramp, sitting backwards in a chair, and I make the statement that he looks like he's trying to audition for Magic Mike, and he actually looked over.
I remember that. Yeah, that was great.
He looked over and gave
me over and sneered.
Yeah, like that was good. That was good. I was like, one of those. But no, seriously, American Alpha. What could have been? My God, so good. Let's go ahead and we're lamenting about tag team wrestling. Let's go ahead and move on and get this one over with. Dustin Rhodes and Max Payne for the U.S. title because Ron
Match of the
Simmons.
night, boys.
Oh God, yeah. Ron Simmons
Yeah.
shoulder injury. My God, in heaven, this was god awful.
Can't hit a homer every time.
No.
Hit a single.
You will be, guys, you will be glad to know that the only match that this particular match is longer than is Davey Boy Smith and Wild Bill Irwin. This is the second shortest match of the card. Seriously, check this out. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is doing it right. Blondes versus Watts and Bagwell got 1634. Scorpio and Benoit got 1959, as we said earlier. Davey Boy and Irwin got 549. Cactus Jack and Orndorf 1217. Rock and Roll and Heavenly Bodies 1252. Dustin Rhodes and Max Payne 1128. And then you get Wyndham and Muda 2410, and then Vader and Sting at 2054.
I mean, it's paced out great. 2 great matches, a palate cleanser, 2 great matches, a palate cleanser, and then 2 great matches.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
We will talk about that in a minute. Because I will tell you right now, I do not agree with you.
I understand.
But we will get to that. Isaac, I'm gonna do it to you 2 weeks in a row. Let's see what you come this week. I challenge you to say something good about Dustin Rhodes versus Max Payne. This is gonna become a new gimmick on this show, I think, Brian.
I think this is gonna be the new gimmick. Dustin Rhodes' outfit looked fantastic. I have done it once again, ladies and gentlemen. The challenge accepted. Thank you. I don't know how it worked, but it does.
Yeah.
I did like his outfit. It was amazing.
Yeah, I'll give mine, which isn't nearly as kind as Isaac's is. Neither one of them managed to kill the other one by accident.
Yeah, about right.
Don't get me wrong.
Did I mention what a great guitar player Max Payne is? He's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he worked playing taps into his promo, which I thought was pretty slick. Dustin Rhodes would go on to be flipping phenomenal in the ring. Just not right now. Just not right now. At his best in 1993, Dustin Rhodes is all right. I think that's a fair statement. You know, we don't.
I'll agree with you on that.
Say what?
I'll agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
I'll agree.
But yeah.
Yeah, this was tough. This was rough around the edges.
Yeah, and I'm going to be honest. For me, second toughest match to watch of this entire show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the point of the show where I'm going to start saying some stuff that's probably going to raise the ire of my two compatriots on this show. As we venture into the NWA World Heavyweight Championship match between the Great Muta, champion, with Hiro Matsuda in his corner, versus Barry Windham. We have not mentioned this, ladies and gentlemen. This pay-per-view also marks the WCW return of the Nature Boy Ric Flair. He's still no compete clause. He can't wrestle, but he can damn sure cut promos, and he can damn sure start doing a Flair for the gold at your TV.
Did he need 12 security guys when he got out of the limo?
No, he did not, but it looked cool. You got Missy Hyatt in that red dress.
Hey, thank you for that. Thank you.
You guys can have her. I'm sorry.
Hey, again, I will say it. Missy Hyatt in this era
Fire.
Yeah.
Fire.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be some women in wrestling that are going to come up in the next couple of years that in their prime are going to blow Missy Hyatt completely out of the water. Sonny. But, you know, in her day, Missy Hyatt might have been the most war eagle of them all.
There was only one other person during that era at that time, and that was just Miss Elizabeth.
She was on a completely different scale.
But that was,
Miss Elizabeth, you would never say that Miss Elizabeth was hot. She was beautiful. Miss Elizabeth was not hot. She didn't dress the part. She didn't act the part. Nothing about her screamed hot. Everything about her screamed wrestling's version of Princess Diana.
I'll give you that.
And there ain't no knocking that at all, boys and girls. You know.
Not up in here.
No. You know, if we're going to talk royal family, there's Princess Diana, and then there's Meghan. One's hot, one's just beautiful.
I'll go with that. I'll agree.
Brian.
I am very thankful for an opportunity to watch the Great Muta again.
Yes.
I mean, I will never. From henceforth, I shall not turn down another opportunity to watch a Great Muta match.
Told you that was.
They're always
butter. Smooth as silk.
Brian, I would like to know your thoughts on this NWA World's Heavyweight Championship match before I even begin.
As I've been, don't forget, boys and girls, I'm watching all of these WCW things in a vacuum. I never experienced this the way that my two partners in crime have. I didn't watch wrestling hardly at all. I came in and checked it out when I was allowed to. So there's huge gaps in my consumption of wrestling at this point. I was impressed that I've gotten to see quite a bit of Barry Windham now.
Yes.
As a wrestler over the past, 2 shows that we've watched. And up to this point, never knew that much about him. I knew that he was a horseman for a time. I knew that, he figured prominently in the title scene in WCW throughout the late 80s, early 90s. But I'm happy to have seen him in the ring, Power guy, obviously, but he could hang with somebody like Muta, who was going to mix the speed and power in there, too. I get the sense that is it that you're not happy with the finish? You disagree with Windham going over Muta?
No, no, I don't disagree with that at all. I thought that was well done, especially since they were about to lead to Windham versus Flair.
Okay.
I had no problem with that. My problem with this match was the match itself. It was like watching Chariots of Fire and them running in slow motion, except there's no payoff. It was just...
The pacing was a lot different than...
It was a slog.
Yeah.
It was...
I even have pacing written down here in my notes, quite a bit.
I'll give you a great example from personal experience over the last couple of weeks. So my oldest daughter, Squishy, is into equestrian. So every Sunday after church, Squish has her horseback riding lessons. We go to the stable where her trainer owns, and Squish will do a lot of the pasture work in terms of like bringing in horses, turnout, stuff like that. So last Sunday here in Northeast Ohio, it was a little damp all across the board. Now, if you want to take dampness and you want to add that to a horse pasture, you're looking at a lot of mud. Now, at this point, if you're bringing these horses into the stable and you're walking through the mud, you have to keep moving. Otherwise, you're going to walk straight up out of your boots. That's what this match felt like. It was.
That's a good analogy.
It was like watching Squish bring in Snowy, her horse that she always works with. It was just like, come on, Snowy. Come on, Snowy. Snowy's moving. Squishy ain't. Squishy's having a high step that thing like it's Dion trying going untouched from the 15. I mean, Squishy was high stepping it more than a drum major for a marching band at a historically black college.
And that's saying something, people.
I kid you not. I mean, it was just like, yeah. This, to me, Meltzer gave this a star and a quarter.
Wow, he was nice.
I would agree. There were spots in this match that were really cool. And most of them were Muta. Muta having two failed moonsault attempts. But still got the moonsault in. Still awesome. Still got the most electrifying move in sports in wrestling today. The flashing elbow, the power drive elbow. Suck it, Dwayne. To me, Wyndham was sloppy. And for me, being the fact that he's the guy going over in this match, you can't be sloppy if you're going to be the one going over. Not for the
you don't want to see that get rewarded.
A World Heavyweight Championship. You can be sloppy if you're going to beat Sheamus for the U.S. title or whoever the hell the U.S. champion is now in WWE. Is it still Priest?
Yes.
Yes.
You can be sloppy if you're going to beat Damian Priest. You can be sloppy if you're going to be Alpha Academy beating RK Bro on Monday night for the tag titles. You can get away with it then. You can't be sloppy if you're going to win the world title. And Wyndham did. This, to me, guys, this match proved one thing that I thought was impossible. It is possible to have a shit match with the Great Muta.
You got to work awfully hard to do it.
Yeah. And guess what? Barry Windham succeeded.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah.
There haven't been that many bad, like all god awful matches that Barry Windham has been in.
Exactly. Why this one? Look, you could have laid a turd 2 months prior at Battle Bowl, and it would have been fine. Not here.
But it's different.
In that complete and utter shit show that we talked about last week, Barry Windham was part of the only tag team match in that Lethal Lottery crap that was even watchable. And now you're going to give me 2 months removed, and Barry Windham's going to slog his ass through a world championship match?
I think, after, we sit here and we talk about, especially Barry Windham. He's one of the guys that normally brings it every single time. But this one, he was a complete dumpster fire. We all can agree on that. Maybe it was an off night. Maybe he had an injury. I don't know. I'm not making excuses for him. He laid an egg on this one. And you can't really lay that bad of an egg, even though he did, against the Great Muta. The Great Muta can make any match, that's not watchable turn into a fantastic match because of who he is and what he does. But apparently, you literally crap the bed. Big time. That's what he did. We got to sit here and call it what it was. Dumpster fire. Thanks, Barry. And you won the title doing it, which I just don't see. But you know what? It was what it was at the time.
Yeah. B, what else do you want to or have to say about this match?
I think you guys have said anything that I could have said and said it much better. It's in hindsight, you know, for a championship winning performance, this is not what you want.
Right. I mean, I can understand it if you're defending the title and it's kind of a slog.
Now, here's the question, though. Is Muta getting ready to go away, or is he still...
I literally, because I'm looking at that same database that I was looking at last week that gives you all of the pay-per-views and the major shows in chronological order. And no, I will never, ever use the term premium live event.
Oh, hell no.
I will not use the acronym PLE.
Sucker, please.
No, I got a different acronym for you. To quote, I quoted a movie earlier, I'll quote another movie. To quote Burt Reynolds to Jackie Gleason in Smokey and the Bandit, Sheriff, do the letters FO mean anything to you? But I'm looking back on this after this particular match. Muta is I'm looking because Slamboree's next and there's no Muta. No. No. He is not here at least through. Let me make 100% sure on something.
Because excursion is the wrong word, because I don't think Muta would have been on excursion at this point.
No.
If
Muta,
his...
No. Muta was well past excursion, and no, there is no Muta after this. He goes back to Japan. This is pretty much it for the Great Muta, because Wyndham's going to go on to Slamboree 93 in about 3 months from now, because this was Superbrawl was on February 21st of 93. In May of 93, Wyndham's going to defend the title against Arn Anderson. In June, he's going to defend the title against Cold Scorpio. In July, he defends the title against Flair.
Okay. So, and that still doesn't excuse the performance and the decision to give, to put the belt on, Barry Windham. But if Muta's leaving, then you got to get the belt off of him.
Right. But
you just wish it was done in a better way than this.
Right. Not that convoluted mess. We go from that convoluted mess to a not convoluted mess. It's Sting and Vader in the White Castle of Fear strap match. We went out for burgers afterwards. We all got the craps. Imodium was the sponsor for this match.
Yes,
yes, but seriously, I make the burgers and the runs joke because of White Castle, but seriously, I freaking hate strap matches. I said this last week. I watched it, literally finished watching it before I hit record on this camera to start this show. And yeah, there were things that happened in the match. So I was like, okay, that was cool. Ooh, I forgot that happened. But strap matches are such a bog. I hate them. That being said, this match didn't suck.
Okay.
It was it was the violent strap match that you would expect, but it wasn't just violence for the sake of violence. They picked their spots very nicely. There were some great moments in the match. I made some notes. Give me a second. Let me pull them back up. By the way, freaking, just Davey Boy Smith, just god awful. I was scrolling through my notes and I saw a whole bunch of crap I wrote about Davey Boy and Wild Bill, and I'm like, nope, I'm not going back to that. But yeah, it sucked. The first thing I wanted to point out, did you guys notice what Vader was wearing coming to the ring? That white fur cape looking thing? Dude,
well, yeah, who thought that was a good idea?
Like, I really like that look. That was badass. I'm like, I kind of wish you would have kept that, Vader. That kind of had a very, kind of almost kind of a barbarian overlord kind of look. And I was like, I like this. Remember earlier when I said that there was other WCW music that was going to make its debut on this pay-per-view that I vehemently hated?
This is what you were referring to.
God bless America, I hated Sting's music. The Man Called Sting theme. I freaking hated it. Give me the old, like, 80s, like 90s Sting music, that driving ass guitar. Give me that. Not this Michael P.S. Hayes written turd.
The new generation, sir.
I'm pretty sure he's the one that composed a lot of this music, because I know he wrote, like, Ricky Steamboat's little ballad that was his entrance music. I hated this music so much. It was god awful. But I love the fact that both guys bled, because to me, this is the kind of rivalry where you gotta go there. I am not much of a blood guy in a match. I think it's played out. I think it's and in a lot of cases it can be way, way overdone. Maybe it's the fact that I watched way too much UFC when the UFC was in its prime, and would see, in an undercard match, some guy get his forehead split open by an elbow, and he's just, the entire mat is just soaked in blood before the main event even happens.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar comes out and smashes somebody into oblivion. And I guess that kind of desensitized me to it. But I look back on this, I'm like, okay, this blood makes sense. I'm pretty sure Sting busted Vader open the hard way, too.
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if Sting bladed or not, but I'm pretty sure that Vader ate a couple of them to get the blood flowing. Second straight match I've seen of Vader. I didn't realize this. Second time in as many matches against Sting that the headgear came off.
Yeah.
How many times did you see that happen in WWE?
Never.
Vader only lost the headgear when he was not only handing out an ass whooping, he was toting one too. Both of those Sting matches, that infamous match against Stan Hansen in Japan.
Jesus Christ. I remember that.
You know what happened to that infamous match in Japan against Stan Hansen?
I've heard about it.
This is the one where Vader had to push his eye back in the socket.
That's right. Wow.
Yeah, you didn't watch it.
Spoiler alert, I hope that you're not eating anything right now.
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
Dinner was 3 hours ago.
yeah.
All right,
This is
girls. Just so you know, please don't eat anything after this.
This is like watching someone get their leg broken on live TV, or watching Ray Phoenix break his arm a couple weeks ago.
Or Sid Vicious breaking his leg.
Yeah, one of
Let
Let me ask you this question as it pertains to this match. Can you think of a strap match that is watchable? Is this one of the ones you would think of? Okay, and what would the other one be?
Keep in mind, when you say strap match, I lump them all together. Strap, Texas bull rope, Russian chain, dog collar. I lump them all together. If you are tethered to your opponent by an apparatus, this falls under the same umbrella, in my opinion. This one and the bull rope match between JBL and Eddie Guerrero.
I was thinking the same thing too.
Only two for me that are watchable. The better of the two is JBL and Eddie.
Eddie was just hysterically funny in that. The way he won that match. It was just funny.
You wouldn't include...
No, Eddie didn't win that. JBL retained, I thought.
JBL retained, yes.
I'll have to go back and watch.
Now, there have been some matches where the heel thought he had him, and he's dragging the face along. He hits the corner, he hits the turnbuckle, and turns. And as he's turning, the face, who's being dragged behind, touches it as well. And as they're getting to the fourth corner, the face just dives out in front of him and gets to it and beats him.
Right.
I've seen that happen, and you're probably thinking something along those lines. But now the JBL Guerrero match had a photo finish. We'll just call it that. It was one of those like, okay, who got there first? But it was JBL.
Yeah. I would include Pat Patterson and Sergeant Slaughter in that.
There are so many other matches that Patterson and Sarge had that I would rather watch.
Agree.
They had so many other bloody ass brawls that to me were better than this. Like I said, to me, there's only two that are really watchable. And a lot of times I think that the apparatus is really unnecessary. Give you a great example. Cody and Brody.
Yeah.
You could have given me that same amount of violence without the stupid ass dog collar.
Agree. Completely agree.
That's really all there is to it. This match had some really good moments. It was a bloody ass brawl, and this one didn't have the same kind of psychology that the match from Starrcade had, but what it lacked in psychology, it amplified in violence.
Yeah.
This was not a story being told. This was a war of attrition. And sometimes you just got to have that. You got to give the people what they want. And for me,
best friends.
Say what?
Thank you, best friends.
Exactly. This was, trying to think of my words. This was as Big Ben Vader as Big Ben Vader gets.
I would agree with that.
Because you go into this match and, okay, White Castle to Fear and, You know, they had those little mini movie that they put together, which if they didn't cut the ever-loving crap out of it, find that thing on YouTube. That mini movie about the White Castle of Fear was actually pretty cool. I had to go back and find it to be able to say, what the hell were they doing here? Oh, yeah, okay, cool. I like that.
2 is 4.
Yeah, say what?
2 plus 2 is 4. We get it.
Yes. But this match was the car crash it was supposed to be. It didn't suck.
Yeah, because if you would come out in this match and deliver the same thing as, you know, Starrcade, you know, it would have fallen flat.
Yeah, because you can't do that same kind of psychology in this kind of match, because there's only one way to win this match, and that is by beating the ever-loving hell out of your opponent to the point where you can drag him around the ring and hit all 4 corners.
There's an expectation there, yeah.
Right. Not a 1, 2, 3, not a submission, nothing else. Sting couldn't, you know, hit a bunch of fists, go up to the top rope, hit that big ass splash, get the 1, 2, 3, all because Vader jacked up a power bomb or jacked up, you know, a splash and bounced off him or pulled a touch on the leg. You can't get away with that in this match. The only way you can do this match is the car crash. You can't tell. That's another reason I don't like these kind of matches, is you really can't tell a story outside of, you know, Dobby wouldn't kill anyone, only maim and severely injure. I literally just made a Harry Potter reference on this show. God help us all. But that's what you get with these matches. You can't do anything else with them. If you do it right, you get a pretty damn good match, as we saw at Superbrawl 3. Without this, you get a dumpster fire, like so many other strap matches have been. Especially when WWE decides they want to change the rules and we're going to have the strap match, but you can win by pinfall or submission.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, God.
I hated strap matches before that. I'm watching this pay-per-view thinking, all right, we're going to get a strap match with these guys and this rivalry. This might be good. You can win this by pinfall or submission. They didn't mention anything about the 4-corner rule. I'm like, the hell is this? I mean,
what is this term that you're giving me, basically?
To quote the Hurricane, what's up with that? Yeah. I thought that the blood added to this, because like I mentioned earlier, war of attrition. This needed to be that. I liked it. I didn't want to like it because of the type of match that it was, but I liked it.
I will say that my opinion of Vader is slowly changing. The more I see of him and stuff like that, you know, and the other things, because I rewatched some of those other matches you mentioned, the Vader and Shawn match, you know, specifically.
No. Let's hear it. Your thoughts on that match, because Isaac and I made it a point to hammer that one on you last Friday on this show. You did watch it, so on behalf of the big man, your compatriots are requesting politely demanding a response.
I had honestly forgotten what a banger that match was. And, you know, I knew of it, you know, and I've watched it before when I was younger. And it's just unfortunately, it's one of those matches you forget about. When you go back and you watch it, you realize what Shawn is trying to do for Vader.
Yeah.
You know, bumping for his offense and his brutality and everything like that. But you also realize what Vader had to do to keep up with Shawn. I mean,
Yeah.
Shawn, Vader's in there with a gazelle. I actually have to try and keep up somehow. And the way I'm going to do that is adaptation and all of those things. So that's why I say I'm starting to come around on Vader slightly.
Yeah.
I still don't think he's my cup of tea comparatively.
I understand.
Because you all know the kind of wrestlers I tend to gravitate towards.
Guys that raise their eyebrow and rip off the Great Muta. And
that's sweet.
Guys that rip off the Great Muta, and then Finn Balor, Bayley, Samoa Joe.
I refuse to be typecast, ladies and gentlemen. That's if we've learned nothing else tonight, we've learned that I refuse to be typecast. I am evolving.
Bigger lies have never been spoken on this show, and that is saying a lot.
So, unless you have any, do we want to tie it all up in a bow before we go on to the next thing, or?
Yeah, I think so. So when we do a pay-per-view like this, I always like to ask you the question, and I've kind of ripped it off from other podcasts, but it's a simple answer. It's a simple question with a simple answer. Overall thoughts of the pay-per-view: thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Here's why. As great as some of those matches were, actually, no, I take that back. No. I changed my opinion.
Because if I'm basing it off of where we've come from since Starrcade, you already have to give Bischoff top marks for utilizing the roster, not overexposing people. He's still giving Eric Watts some run.
Right.
But he's doing it sensibly.
But at the same time, we cannot give Eric Bischoff that much love right now. Here's why. It is February of 1993. In 6 months, I got 2 words for you. Shock master.
Can't hit a home run every time, boys and girls.
We're going to get the Shock master.
Oh, my God.
We are 6 months away from Fall Brawl, War Games,
and Uncle Fred.
And the mother effing Shockmaster. To this day, the worst thing ever in wrestling. And it's neck and neck with the damn gobbledygooker.
And Katie Vick.
Yeah, and Katie Vick.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one more question before we get into next week. Oh, yeah, okay, so those 3 are the quote-unquote unholy trinity of all things bad wrestling. Yes or no, because I've always felt a certain way about this. Would you give an honorable mention to the Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, who's the father of Dominic storyline?
Yes. Horrible.
I struggle with that. The premise was absolutely ridiculous. But the ladder match itself was, grade A beef. I still cringe every time I watch the promo.
Oh,
the promo package leading up to that match. I mean, it's cringeworthy.
Oh, very much so. But again, and I kind of feel the same way as you do on that one, Brian. It is very cringeworthy and it is very god awful. But the payoff of that match was so freaking good because it just wasn't Ray winning and getting the big hug from Dominic and everything else.
It was Vicky.
It was Vicky.
Yeah.
It was Vicky knocking her own husband off the ladder.
Yeah. So that's why giving it a pass is probably not the but that is I would give it a pass for the wrestling that we saw and for the way the story was executed.
The way they wrapped it up.
Yes.
give the KD Vic storyline a pass on anything because
I'm not here to do that.
It was complete trash, and two, there was no excusable payoff. And the gobbledygooker and the Shockmaster are just so effing embarrassing that, it's just like, oh God. I mean, you can still go back and watch the Shockmaster debut and laugh. I have shown multiple people that live in this house that for the very first time, and they've all chuckled. The Wonder Boy, soon to be Mrs. Wonder Boy, Nurse Rant Mode on, all three of them. Was that supposed to happen? No.
That was Uncle Fred.
Somebody in his house asked, why are they wearing it? And for the record, it's not her that asked this question. Why are they wearing a sparkly, glittery stormtrooper helmet?
Because reasons.
If
Yeah.
someone says because I said so,
It's better if you don't ask questions.
I literally told this person, who I will keep anonymous, like, don't ask. Why not? There's no good answer. There's no good answer, and wrestling fans look at this moment as just kind of like for the love of God.
Yeah. So, good sir, what do you think we should endeavor to deep dive upon when we meet again?
So, I had an idea. We've spent some time in the in the 1993 era of WCW, and we've seen how they develop storylines, how they bring matches together, and the cohesion or lack thereof, and the continuity and the lack thereof of what they've done in WCW. I'd like to take a juxtaposition of this. Same year, fast forward a few months down the road. Hey, we just mentioned Fall Brawl. This is going to happen around the same time. SummerSlam 1993. Hailing from the United Center in Chicago, Illinois. Your main event. Gentlemen, do you remember the main event for SummerSlam 93? What would it be, Brian?
Two of them.
But what was the main event?
Undertaker versus Underfaker.
Yep. For bonus points, does either one of you know the identity of the Underfaker?
Yes, I do.
Who would that be?
That would be Brian Lee.
Nicely done. Nicely done. By the way, the other match we got, and I'm going to say it the exact same way I said it in the pre-show meeting, hoping that Isaac will do the exact same thing he did the last time. The co-main event might have been Bret Nolan in the cage.
What did you say?
Bret Nolan in the cage.
That's worth investigating.
Interesting fact about this particular pay-per-view. Taker and Faker were supposed to go a heck of a lot longer, but Owen and Bret overshot by 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they passed the go home by about 20 minutes. Apparently Mark Calloway chewed both Hart brothers 16 new assholes at the end of this night. But I wanted to look at this because you're setting up storylines and you're paying off storylines in this particular pay-per-view because you're getting ready for, well, you're paying off Undertaker and Undertaker. You are getting ready to take the title off of Bret to give it to Bob Backlund so you can turn around a couple of days later and give it to Diesel in 8 seconds. You're about to pay off Taker and Yoko and the receipt from the casket match. You're paying off all of these things, and I wanted to look at this pay-per-view, comparatively speaking, to what we've just watched the last 2 weeks, and see how things differ. I also wanted to point out the real reason that I wanted to bring up this pay-per-view were the vignettes that they shot with Leslie Nielsen and
Oh God,
the other guy from Naked Gun.
if you say O.J. Simpson, I'm gonna hurt you.
No, the other white guy.
I don't remember his name. I can see his face.
Me too. But Leslie
We'll look it up.
And his partner from the Naked Gun movies and their investigation of The Undertaker. Those vignettes were so freaking funny. But then again, I find the Naked Gun movies to be just... I love stupid
Really good.
I love brainless humor like that. I mean, God, for the love of God, I like the Beavis and Butthead.
That's everything we need to know, ladies and gentlemen. That's all.
Exactly. Are you threatening me? I'm not going to pull the shirt over my head. I promise.
Good. I think before he does that, ladies and gentlemen, it's probably time.
I would not do it. I would not do it.
Okay.
Because it'll look really dumb on camera. And
on behalf of the Big Man and the Reverend of the Rant, it is our sincerest pleasure to bring this lean, mean, wrestle-talking machine to you every week. Reach out to the show. You can tweet at us at WrestlingXEgos on Twitter. Check out the show repository on Google, bit.ly/withegos. You can also email the show, wrestlingwithegos@gmail.com. If you've got an idea for a segment, if you've got an idea for a show you want us to take a deep dive on, we would love to hear your feedback. That's how we've been getting all these ideas, is interacting with you, the people.
We're also on Facebook.
Yes.
Facebook.com/wrestlingwithegos. Pretty much have everything more recently up on the page. I'm working on getting more and more stuff added to. Again, if you're following us on any of the podcasting formats, please go give us a 5-star review. Give us a nice rating. Gets the algorithm up. Gets everything, gets us higher up so people can find us a lot easier than that.
Gets things percolating.
Just percolating. Yes, very much so. And then, of course, the one thing that we're doing here in 2022 that Isaac wants more than anything else, and it is the 500 subscriber challenge. We hit 500 subscribers. Brian gets to chop me, not 1, not 2, but 3 times.
That would be epic.
So we got to make this happen. We got to give the people what they want. And let's be honest, seeing me get my ass kicked, probably a good thing, because let's be honest, of the 4 people that circulate around this show, one of them, and only one of them, is annoying as piss. I'll give you a hint. He was not born in the state of Ohio. Wait a minute. Brian wasn't either. Never mind. I forgot. Brian was born in Buffalo, New York.
No, I was born in Maryland.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You were born in Buffalo.
Tax River, Maryland, moved to Buffalo when I was 2.
Learn something new every day.
Yes.
But anyway, it's going to wrap it up. Guys, SummerSlam 93 next week. Going to be fun.
Looking forward to it.
Going to be very fun.
Fun with this.
Say what?
We're going to have a lot of fun with this one.
We're definitely going to have a lot of fun with this. It's going to be very interesting, too, because I'm also dog sitting next weekend. So that'll be interesting. Because I remember the last time I had to dog sit and do this show, I had to take them out mid-show.
We'll be prepared for that.
All I'm going to say is my in-laws own. That being said, we're out of here. For everybody involved with the show, for Isaac, for Brian, I'm Patrick. This has been Wrestling with Egos. We'll catch you next week when we do SummerSlam 93, because this is why we definitely love pro wrestling.